Hey guys, what's going on? This is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. And today we're going to talk about who was the first strength coach. Now, this is a heavily debated topic, and for a lot of people that are in the strength conditioning realm, they don't understand the history of strength conditioning, where it began, and most importantly, who were the founders of the actual strength conditioning process that we know today. But before we get into the topic, please like, subscribe, and comment on who you think is the top person of strength conditioning that should be named the father of strength conditioning. The first person on our list and the trophy that they hand out at the Mr. Olympia is Eugene Sandow. Now, Eugene Sandow was born in 1867. He was a great innovator, and he was one of the first people to actually get physical education in schools. So if we look at Eugene Sandow as a possible candidate for the first strength coach, he definitely fits the bill. But I find that there are some things that I think Eugene Sandow even came short to next to the next person that we're going to talk about. So if you said Eugene Sandow, you're not far off. But there's one guy that totally, completely trumps Eugene Sandow as far as scientific principles are concerned and the vast array of things that he did with strength training. So although Eugene Sandow trained a lot of royalty, princesses, kings, all kinds of different things, and was considered the first professor, I think as we look as a strength coach, again, Russia is leading the way with a guy named Dr. Krayevsky. Dr. Krayevsky was a Russian physician that utilized physical fitness initially to help ill patients. So imagine that you're around 1880 and you have this doctor that's telling you need to get in better shape in order to heal your illness. We know that now is very true, but back then I'm sure it was a huge culture shock to a lot of people. But what we started to realize is he started to organize the first amateur weightlifting competitions around 1880 in the Russian system, creating the first organized system of weight training that any large state had ever seen. This is huge. The one big thing that I think we have to understand is that he developed the basic principles of strength training, a few of which are he would utilize exercise variety. So he was starting to understand that doing the same exercise over and over again may not be a good idea. He started learning about loading parameters and volume and sets and reps and creating the first inclination that you can over or under train, and finding optimal would be important. He also was huge in sleep monitoring. So he started to realize that it's not how hard you train, it's how hard you recover, which is another massive milestone. And imagine this around 1900. And then refraining from smoking and drinking. So a lot of the population at this time smoked, and a lot of them drank, and even ones that were considered athletes. And he would have a lot of his athletes stop doing these things in order to increase performance. This is way before anybody was talking about smoking or drinking even being bad for you. And so I think that you have to give him his due credit on this particular area. The other things that I think that are very important with Dr. Krayevsky is he recommended medical control of the athletes. Now, how much medical control they had in 1900 is subject to debate. But what I would tell you is that think about having the mindset that medical control is important for athletes in like 1901. Pretty crazy. The other thing that I think is interesting is he started to understand the sequencing of training. So he understood off-season, in-season, pre- and post-competitions. Now, a lot of the stuff that they were doing was archaic, but we didn't start hearing about that in America until around the 1970s. So they were already 70 years ahead with Krayevsky doing this in the early 1900s. The other big thing that I think is important with Krayevsky as well is he's starting to implement and study or consider hereditary issues or genetics. This is interesting because then I'm sure he would look at athletes and look at their parents or their grandparents if they were still alive and see if they had the structure to possibly put on more muscle tissue. This had never been thought of beforehand in a kind of in a educated fashion. So Krayevsky takes my number one pick as the first strength conditioning coach. It helped that he was a physician and highly educated, and it also helped that his hobby was weightlifting, meaning that he was trying to change stuff that was in his own realm. I find that that's very misleaded today. We have a lot of experts that don't live the life, right? We go to a medical facility and The doctor's telling us to lose weight and they're overweight. The nurses are giving us medication for diabetes or hypertension and they have diabetes and hypertension. Krayevsky was one of the first people to actually live the life that he talked about and then implement those insights into training other people. So in my opinion, Krayevsky takes the grandfather of strength conditioning and once again is why Russia was so far ahead of America, nearly almost 100 years ahead. So this is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. Go and check out our manuals. If you want to read more about Krayevsky, there's going to be more of it in the book when it comes out. Talk to you guys soon.